very special episode of Yeah, We Read It. I'm one of your hosts, Meggie.
And I'm also one of your hosts. My name's Laura.
And today we are discussing the first prequel in the Maze Runner series. It is The Kill Order. And it is a special event because for the first time ever, we have a guest in person with us. This has never happened before.
Oh my god, we've never done it in person. We've only done virtual.
We've never done person.
Should we introduce the guest or should we have the guest introduce themselves?
Please welcome our special guest,
Nate Todd!
Hi! Yeah!
I think we do really good on the Price is
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like that was really well choreographed by us.
I felt brought into the space, which is great. And
awesome. You're supposed to be welcome, so.
Great, I feel welcome. And for the listeners, I'm actually friends with these two, so.
Yeah, or so he says.
Yeah.
Well,
Origin story is buddies for a while.
Yeah, buddies for a while.
Buddies for a while.
Buddies for a while, buddies forever.
Much like the buddies in this book, we are also buddies. And that's the only relation I can make. But boy is James Dashner a little slut for prequels, because his third one just came out in the end of last year.
Whoa.
Maze Cutter.
Maze Cutter. And Meggie and I are not going to read that one, listeners, because we didn't really think about it.
I actually think that it is a sequel. I looked it up briefly, and it's like the Maze Runner, but set in the future, and instead they are on an island and not on a maze.
Wait, so it's like another trial?
It seems like it.
That seems unfair, because I want to see what happened to Brenda and Thomas.
Yeah. My BPD queen. She's got BPD, I swear to God. Brenda?
Yeah?
BPD awareness.
Okay. I just thought you were going to like back it up with some evidence rather than just doubling down.
No. Here I am, also the resident psychologist.
I thought the Maze Cutter would be about, like, the guy with shears just going through and doing the lawn maintenance in the maze.
Gally?
Yeah, Gally was a builder.
Yeah.
I think was Zart the gardener?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who's Fry Pan again?
He's the cook.
He was the cook, that's right. Yeah.
Fry Pan's also our favorite scientist.
Yes.
Frypan it makes a lot of sense he was named after that scientist.
All right. And before we get too ahead of ourselves, I think we have to dive into the Kill Order, because we're talking a lot about our favorite characters from the original Maze Runner trilogy. And listeners, we have to tell you that they are not in this book at fucking all.
In fact...
Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
In fact, probably some of them aren't even born yet. We don't even know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't really understand what year it is,
Yeah.
where in the existence of it all is. We do get a weird little, like...
Epilogue.
A prologue and an epilogue.
Yeah.
One with Thomas and Teresa, and one with just Thomas, which was very bizarre to me.
Mm-hmm.
The prologue is very long. It's just Teresa kind of pondering Thomas, and he's about to go into the glade.
The swipe. Yeah, he's getting his swipe. His memories are going to be
Getting the
gone.
swipe. He's about to get thrown in that box.
So weirdly, it's actually a prologue to the first book.
Yeah.
Because it's literally right before he gets sent up there.
Yeah,
you know?
so I have no idea why that was thrown in. Because I was like, okay, interesting. Where is this going? And it didn't... I never got that answer.
Yeah.
Nope. Never got that answer. Instead, we are meeting a whole new group of characters. One whose namesake, Mark, will be our protagonist.
Oh my god, Mark's also the name of my landlord.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mark's also the name of one of my best friends, and I gotta tell you, that Mark is better than this one.
Mine is about on par with this one.
I grew up in the mountains of Colorado, and every dad was named Mark.
Yeah,
Fun
Mark
fact.
is a dad name.
Yeah.
Mark is a useless character. Can we all agree on that?
Oh, absolutely.
He never takes action once in this book.
No.
He literally follows everything. Alec, who's another character we meet, and Alec is a war veteran. And he's the most interesting character in this entire book.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I would have loved to read this book from his eyes.
That's
and his
why I
eyes
texted Meggie. I was like, this should have been told from Alec's point of view, because it's way more interesting.
I imagine him as a G.I. Joe doll.
That's basically it. He's G.I. Alec.
So Alec and his second character, his little buddy, Mark, they wake up in a small hut. Yep. They're in a hut and they're cold.
Yeah, and we get some just kind of details that, like, you know, they've been kind of doing this routine in their little, hut that they're waking up in. They're fighting for survival. We find out that they're in Appalachia in North Carolina, and they're having to really scrounge from the earth now. This isn't their normal lifestyle.
Yes.
It's about, like, what, 2 or 3 years after the big...
It's 13 years prior to Thomas going up in the maze.
Yeah,
Oh.
13 years earlier.
But it's 3 years after the big flare.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
So the sun flares have just decimated the world, and they're kind of out here surviving with 2 other people, Lana and Trina.
Yeah, and they're a part of a whole little makeshift town with other people who are able to find, resolve in this little area. We also find out that Trina, it's after her 16th birthday, and she was able to save some books because she's a reader.
Boy, does he nail this interaction. He goes up, he hugs her. We can't really tell what they are.
We never get an answer.
Trina, blonde hair, green eyes, superior breed like me, I wrote down. Reading a book. She's hot, she's intelligent, which I get it. The struggle is real.
Maggie's a Trina stan, clearly.
I'm a Trina stan. She's also pretty useless. Which,
Yeah.
Hey, uselessness matters in 2023. I'm useless.
I will say, I read the back of the book, y'all, and I was like, oh, Mark and Trina. And then Trina, disappears for most of this book. And I was like, oh.
In fact,
Yes.
I think all we learn about her as a character is in this first couple of chapters. And it's basically, I'm the plot device that motivates the man through love.
And
the
I
end.
flirt with him.
And
Yeah.
even more embarrassing, so they ran away together 3 days after her 16th birthday, and Mark indicates he's pretty upset with Trina because she had a crush on this John guy, and she, quote, only took a chance on him after the world ended. Come on,
Yikes.
buddy. He's like,
Yeah.
it only took the decimation of the human population for a girl to notice
Trina
me.
just needs to take him out back and say, hey, you were the last choice. Sometimes you just gotta be blunt.
Yeah.
I feel like being honest with people that would actually help them survive longer in this post-apocalyptic
Exactly.
world, right? Like, toughen you up a little bit.
Exactly.
Clearly never got bullied enough in the real world. There are some other high schoolers here who could have the opportunity to bully Mark. Darnell, Toad, Misty.
And don't get too attached to them because none of them have any distinguishing qualities and they all die immediately. There's also Lana, who we find out was a nurse with Alec in the army.
Yeah.
But she is both younger than Alec and older than Mark's parents. So that could mean anything.
We're going to mostly stick with Mark and Alec through this.
Yeah.
And the plot kind of takes off because there is engines in the sky and everyone is kind of out of sorts because, Bergs don't usually come into this part of
they're in
Asheville.
hiding.
Yeah.
So this is weird, and people are pretty excited about this. They're like, okay, maybe we're getting rescued from the helicopters.
Yeah, they're like, this can only be good news.
Whenever I hear darts, I get excited. You know me, I love darts.
It's the same thing when you hear a plane overhead, you go, they're coming to save me.
Yeah, but...
And they are not. 5 guys in hazmat suits come down, and like Nate said, they have these guns that they're just shooting darts into the crowd.
You'd think, they would have, a better, tool... If they're trying to, the TLDR listeners, we learned that this is the first iteration of the virus, but we'd think that they should have, a better way to spread this, right, than a fucking dart. Wouldn't they have, a little, virus bomb that they could do or something?
What do they do?
They literally have to be at close range to shoot, and, and later we know that they have a dissolving gun that's invented. And flat transes that can teleport them everywhere, and now they just have fucking blow darts in the beginning of this book.
You would think it was
That's a good point.
distributed like one of those weed whacker, the things that shoot water, and it just kind of rains mist over
Yeah, a
everyone.
super soaker.
Yeah.
That would be a better way to spread a virus.
Or Agent Orange was something you inhaled and would kill you. Wouldn't it just make sense to do a gas?
Yeah.
And
Send some anthrax in the mail. Come on.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, the listeners, what Meggie, Nate, and I are all saying is we all have way better ways to spread a deadly virus that's going to destroy humanity than James Dashner did on page 18 to 27 in this book.
Yeah.
Also, as someone who's been to Asheville, great city, there are a lot of trees and a lot of mountains.
Yeah.
Maybe pick a city where it's not as easy to hide. Just from darts. I don't know. I feel maybe pick a plane.
You could probably do that, but they are not
Something
going
in
to
planes?
survive this. There's bullets getting rained. Mark has to carry Darnell because Darnell gets shot with a dart.
Absolute chaos.
Whoa, that was a hard sentence.
Wow. You
And-
killed it.
Thank you. He's carrying him with Lana and Trina. They're running closer to their little hut with Toad and Misty in tow. But the berg is kind of lower to the ground now. So there's fire kind of raining everywhere.
Yeah. And in all of this chaos, the most interesting plot point and the most unnecessary plot point happens. And instead of everybody going, hey, let's, run for cover, Alec has the bright idea to find a grappling hook and find his way onto the fucking ship. And this was not explained well. Even Mark exclaims, "Why are we doing this?" And Alec goes, "If someone threatens your home, you go after them." And you want to know what they do? They fucking get on this ship and then, like, demand that they take them back home.
It's pretty nuts, because Alec has harpooned himself up there.
Yeah.
I imagine Mark is just holding on to the end of a string, just like dangling. Did you see that video on YouTube of that person getting airlifted out of the mountains and the thing is like spinning really fast? That's kind of how I imagine Mark trying to get on this plane.
Yeah.
And they get on pretty easy.
Yeah.
They get on, the door narrowly closes.
They chase this one guy that's shooting darts with them to the cockpit. And then the moment they're there, Alec is, like I said, demanding that they take them back. And it's like, then why'd you fucking leave?
Mark, in this time, stumbles on a box that says, contains highly contagious darts. And that's indicating to us that, okay, this is how the flare starts.
Yeah, and then, and their demands to the pilots to drive them back to where they came from after they, illegally boarded their ship. The pilots almost become possessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they crash the ship. So
he's like, the pilot, they're interrogating them about something, and instead of answering their questions, he's like, I'm just gonna crash this plane into the mountains.
Yeah, it's described that their eyes kind of gloss over. So I think this is the first inklings of Wicked being able to do mind and body control.
Ooh.
I did not even think about that.
Yeah, that's what I inferred.
I thought he was just like, nah, I'd rather die than tell you my secrets.
But honestly, that makes a lot of sense, because they were not only like, I can't tell you, the lady flying took them down, and I mean, it's not a good situation at all. I mean, also, why would you want to kill yourself in the plane?
I mean, I might if I just unleashed a deadly virus that was going to kill me anyway. So
right. I guess that is
suicide
true.
mission.
So the berg plunges downward and something hits Mark's head. And the thing about Mark is Mark likes to get a lot of concussions in this book.
Yeah, Mark loves to dream in memories only.
Mark is rolling with the CTE by the end. And Mark has a flashback of sitting and daydreaming. Oh, Mark likes to dream and hit his head in this book.
Yeah.
He's daydreaming about Trina and being obsessed with her and whatnot. And they're kind of neighborhood friends for a while, which, you don't want to fuck your neighborhood friends. And he has this beautiful line I wrote down that says, quote, "How could he have known she'd turn into this beautiful thing with the hot body and dazzling eyes?"
Wait a minute, Nick put that on my Valentine's Day card.
Shoot!
Oh my gosh, he took it from a poet himself.
Yeah. Wow. This book starts to be told in almost like two paths, which is both flashbacks and in what's happening in the present time. The flashbacks being what led them to get to their little safety village that they're in. Mm-hmm. And I will say, I really don't think we need the device of dreams to be the flashbacks. I really think we could have just had some chapters being flashbacks and some chapters being the present day.
He adds it into Mark's character where he hates sleeping or he hates passing out, because every time when he does, he goes to the flashbacks. He's reminded as if every time he goes to sleep.
And I love that his flashbacks are always chronological in a way
kind
that
of
makes
convenient.
sense to the reader.
It's okay, disposition, right?
I know. Imagine you're writing a book about your life. It'd be nice if every single night I had a dream that was the day before the last.
Oh, thank God I just had my dream about my senior year after my junior year. Otherwise, I would have been so confused.
Mark's dream is about they're planning this school break, way too obsessed with Trina, and the lights in this underground tunnel, I assumed they were on a train go out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Trina's stressed, and then some guys trying to pry open the doors of the train, jump out. The whole group goes one way, and then Mark and Trina are like, maybe we should go the opposite way. So they start walking away.
Which also seems dumb.
The group.
Yeah. I would follow everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hear some screams, and then there's just this open clearing of all of these bodies that are burnt, bloody, naked.
From I think from a crash train. Oh, from Flare.
It's from the sun flare. So this is when they start.
These flashbacks were written in a way that were a little confusing to really get the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the one where, so the solar flare hits the Earth and a tsunami happens, right?
Yes,
or is that okay? And then doesn't his family is also killed in that flood,
sure.
right? Is it this flashback or is that a different flashback?
So it's not explicitly said how his family dies, but he does say when he's looking at the burned bodies, he can't help but like worry that something like this has happened to his little sister and his parents. But I will say I read it 4 times to be clear, because it did sound like his like parents and sister were in that pile up of bodies.
Okay.
Really?
No, they weren't in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm saying it was confusing and it seemed like that, but he was picturing how scary it would be if it was the case. Yeah.
Because when the flood came, they like had to wait 2 weeks to even look for bodies. And so he like at that point he says like he had no idea where his family was.
Later.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
But this is just the first
First
part.
one.
Yeah.
First part.
Luckily he has some clarity in his dreams, which is better than reality, because he's waking up, he's got his first concussion.
Yeah, thank God they've both woken up from this ship crash completely fine.
I know, seriously. The computers in the Berg, they're all shut down, but they need to find a work pad. So they see the coordinates of, like, whatever the person's headquarters who was flying the plane was, and it's like 50 miles away. And Alec wants to go that way after they go home to check on everyone.
Why? We don't know.
I don't know. So they go back home, they get back in town, and it kind of smells like death.
It's stinky. It's a stinky town.
Alec is trying to save as many people as possible, but he's like, we need to protect ourselves first. We can't help people if we are dead. And if you doubt something about anyone, just go back. If you think they're sick, go back. And there's at least like 20 people dead.
Yeah, and Trina rushes over them and is like, oh, thank God you two are back. Mark, I missed you because that's my only character quality. Let me take you to where Darnell is in his little prison shack right now. He made me put him in there because things are not going well.
Which honestly, good for Darnell. Like,
honestly, yeah.
Got a self-quarantine.
You know, it's to understand your mental health in a way that you know you need to be institutionalized is fantastic. And we love Darnell for that. But Mark goes up to the little wooden boards in this and is peering through, trying to kind of gauge what's happened because, you know, they're given a lot of information of what they missed.
Because they were gone for 3 days.
Yeah.
They had to do a 3-day trek, which I love how they're like, it was two-day walk and then like a third day.
I
Like
know. In a sentence, it took them 2 days to get back. And now the town is in shambles.
And boy, does it smell.
Yeah, they really missed a weekend. That's what you get for waking up in Vegas.
Yeah. Shut up and put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, Asheville.
Oh my gosh. But he essentially watches Darnell slowly lose his mind, and then Darnell does kill himself.
Yeah, Darnell just kind of hits his head against the door until, you know, the inevitable happens, which is you die.
That's just... This book was very violent.
Yeah.
This book was really violent.
Yeah, I think this book was a symptom of the last book where James Dashner was like, I have a movie deal and I can write a bunch of action scenes whenever the fuck I want. But nobody was going to make this into a movie because it's not interesting enough to do that.
Yeah. Trina's really upset about this. She starts crying. She doesn't want to hug. She's like, don't touch me.
She's like, because we all might be sick. We shouldn't touch me. Which is honestly fair.
And they retrieve Toad and Misty and Lana. And they're like, Darnell is dead. And, you know, we gotta go. We know that people have been showing symptoms within 2 to 3 hours. And it's an outbreak.
Yeah. They're like, we gotta leave. But Misty, oh no.
Misty.
She's like, I'm ready to leave, but guys, my head hurts. Is that weird? Because Darnell and everybody else who died had that exact same issue.
And the voices in my head are telling me some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's like, actually, maybe I should stay behind. So basically, Lana, Alec, Mark, and Trina all leave. Toad stays behind.
Which, thank God, I was so happy they started killing characters off because I could not keep up.
Yeah, no, it's too much. Too much was going on. But they are off into the woods, and they've decided they're going to follow to the directions to the address on the work pad, which again, why wouldn't you just kind of try to run away from the people that just killed your entire village? We don't know, because they don't have any weapons or, like, even any, like, food or really anything. So, again, the logic here is not explained. I was very confused as to, like, the motivation for this.
For going to find who spread the...
Yeah. Like, what are they gonna do? There are 4 people.
I really don't know. Why not just relocate to
Exactly.
a new place?
That's what I'm saying. Why not just, like, go be like, okay, maybe let's go just, like, run.
Yeah. It would make sense if they, like, maybe if they kidnapped someone and took them, then it's like, now we're chasing someone.
But then it's also like, okay, well, why did they kidnap that one person?
Yeah.
Who knows? But Mark is about to have another dream again. Our sensitive dreamer Mark. And This is when they are going through the tunnels. They realize some guys following Trina and him. And it's like 3 men being really gross to Trina. Someone steps out of the darkness and beats up these 3 guys. And this is when we are introduced to Alec in the past, when Mark and Trina met up with him for the first time in the tunnels. And I'm pretty sure that's where the dream ends.
That's where the dream ends. Mark wakes up in a cold sweat and Trina's like, "What's wrong, Mark? I'm here for you. That's my only quality." And they decide to kiss and break their little quarantine. But then, in a wild turn of events, Toad knows exactly where they've been camping, and he starts, like, creeping up, and Mark's like, "Toad, what are you doing here?" And then Toad just lays it on thick, y'all. He tells them that he's sick too, that he was talking to Misty through the door because she's his best friend, and he couldn't let her, succumb to the voices alone, so he started hugging her, and then he decided to kill her to put her out of her misery.
Yeah. So Alec has a very normal response to this, and he picks Toad up and carries him off somewhere, and all of a sudden the screaming just kind of stops.
Yeah, it's implied that Alec just murders Toad in cold blood.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
It seemed as if Mr. Dashner was trying to, put some emotion into this. Like, these close friends of them died from this. Which I see that approach, but he just did it way too quickly, and I don't even know who Toad was, besides he looked like a toad and he could beat up people.
I just could not stop picturing Toad like the Super Mario character, kind of in human form.
I visioned him as the human version of an American bulldog.
Yeah.
I was thinking Peter Pettigrew from the movies.
Interesting.
Oh.
Just short and stout and kind of awkward.
The power of literature makes us all really think, doesn't it?
Wow, it
really
truly does.
But yeah, no, I agree with you, Nate. It just felt like a lot of things happened quickly, and we didn't get any time to really get attached or understand the dynamic of these characters or why we should care about them.
No.
So shit just started hitting the fan, and I was confused for a while.
I was pretty confused. So they're all trying to figure out the disease. What's its deal? What's its ASL? They think it's mutating and adapting, and it takes longer to kill you as it spreads. And Alec's like, so we better not waste time. This is all a book about just we better not waste time.
Yeah, they're hiking most of this book.
Yeah. They set off, find another settlement. So they're like, let's check things out for an hour. Smells like death, which is not a good sign. Mm-hmm. And there's a small 5-year-old girl standing there.
That was creepy. That was creepy as fuck. I was like, y'all don't talk to her. Run the other way. Have you not seen a horror movie?
Yeah, if she had a doll in her hand, I would have been like, we're done. We're done.
She was near 7 bodies, too.
I know, and I just pictured her she's covered, there's dead bodies all around her, and she's just in a pristine white little girl dress and just walking towards them.
Yeah, and she's
ominously.
Help me find my mommy.
Yeah, it was creepy.
Yeah.
But she's crying, and we can't take a crying kid.
No, little Dee Dee.
Yeah.
We can kill Toad in cold blood, but we can't take a 5-year-old crying.
Yeah, so they decided to bring this child with them. After she shows them, look, I got stung by a dart, but I'm not sick, or am I?
My cult abandoned me because of it. Ooh.
Yeah, they all think that she's the devil.
Yeah.
She's really not having a good day.
No, yeah, that was not great for her, but they're camping again, and don't worry, y'all, because Mark's gotta sleep for the night and have another flashback.
Yeah, I also wrote that Mark is so horny watching Trina with kids, and he sleeps okay that night.
In this dream, it is Alec leading Mark and Trina out of the tunnels. And he's like, hey guys, I have a plan. We gotta go to the Lincoln Building. Why Alec knows of a safe building to go to during an apocalypse, we don't know. We're just trusting it.
Which, fun fact, I don't think the Lincoln Building actually exists in our world.
No, I don't think so either.
I think it's the Penn Station or something like that. Yeah.
Weird. I don't know. Maybe things were different in 2012. Maybe we did have... I don't actually know. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, and in yet another action sequence, people try to stop them and Alec fights them off again.
Yes, he does. Kind of interesting. He does say that they gotta go to Lincoln before the water floods, because obviously if there are sun flares and they crash into the earth, the all of the polar ice caps will melt and the sea levels will rise, and New York is right next to the Atlantic.
Because this chaos is happening, y'all. Water is pouring into their tunnel system. So not looking good. But we're going to wake up. We're not going to figure out what's going to happen with this water yet, because we got to wake up. We got to hike again. And I love this part of the book because Trina knows Mark has all these nightmares, and she tells him to stop living in the past, essentially. Like, what?
Trina does?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if the person
She's like, you need to let go of, like, everything that's happened. Like, you guys lost all of your family members.
No,
and
I think Trina's a real one for that. Because I'm sorry, if a guy who I was, like, feeling cute with could not let go of being like, you had a crush on John at your 16th birthday party, I'd be like, Mark, come on.
But that's not what he's not letting go of. He clearly is traumatized by the fact that they were trapped in a subway system for hours.
I'd be
had to
sick
escape.
of it too.
Maggie, you're fake. You're fake. You're being a fake bitch right now.
I think Trina should dig deeper and be mean.
Poor guy, he's hanging out with the little girl that reminds him of his little sister. And
Yeah.
he even says in the book, he's like, I wish that girl was my little sister. Like, fuck this girl. I miss Madison. Like, he's going through a lot right now.
Yeah.
He's going through
Maggie,
a lot. They should start a relationship then.
Maggie, as my best friend who talks often about winning Homecoming Queen over 10 years ago, I think you would still be focused on what happened to you inside this tunnel system.
You went Homecoming Queen.
I went Homecoming Queen 10 years ago.
That's
it was
awesome.
pretty crazy.
Wow.
Maybe
I
if
did
the
not know
world ends.
that.
Well, you know what? If the world ends, I would want someone to tell me not to talk about it.
Wow.
And that's like, that's Homecoming. That's the
that's
big
like
one.
Homecoming.
Yeah.
You don't think Trina?
Imagine Trina being like, Mark, you need to let go of what happened in the tunnels. Like, I'm really just focusing on the fact that I went Homecoming Queen.
I want someone.
And my crown's in my childhood home, and I'm never gonna see it again.
At some point, I want someone to supercut the amount of times I brought up Homecoming Queen on this podcast, because I'm sure it's like.
Well, 'cause we've also had so many opportunities to bring it up, because like everybody goes to a school dance like every 6 books,
Yeah, so I probably brought it up every single time.
And I think I brought it up too, because it's impressive.
It is pretty impressive.
It's impressive.
Well, it's not impressive, and that's a segue
A
into
great segue transition.
trying to figure out where we are now.
This movie is literally a group of people finding other groups of people and realizing that this group of people not
Bad.
good. And then they lose, then someone dies, and then they go to their next one.
Yeah. During this hike where Trina tells Mark to get over the fact that his family's dead,
She's a real one.
They're 5 miles out from this giant trek they're on, which is wild because we're not even halfway through the book, so how do they hike so fast?
They hear people singing in the woods. It's Mamma Mia, here we go again.
Yeah.
Our little 6-year-old Dee Dee is like, be careful, they think I'm the devil.
Yeah, and it's like, how did Dee Dee know that it was them explicitly? That's creepy as fuck.
She also says, watch out for the ugly man with no ears.
And we know,
Yeah.
and you know what, listeners? I'm gonna speed this up because they find the singing circle people. They're insane.
Singing peace circle people.
And you know what? They meet the guy with no ears. His name's Jedediah, and we never find out why he has no ears. We're never
His
told.
face got. Oh, well, we learned his face got melted off with the sun flares, and I don't know if that also took his ears off.
Nope, doesn't say.
And
Doesn't say.
You just meet him, and then he dies.
Yeah.
Like
he
the
bleeds
end.
to death.
Yeah, it's very confusing. He kind of explains a bit about their town, which is just the Berg shot darts in their town too. People
2
caught
months
the
ago, though,
disease.
so that's
Yeah, 2
different.
months prior, yeah.
They caught the disease slower, and then Jed saying his head's hurting, which I thought, okay, Jed has the disease when he dies. And I was also wondering how the group of friends are quarantining, or like, are they wearing masks? Because for a bit, Mark and Alex,
They were wearing
like,
masks a little bit, but I don't think anymore.
yeah, by the time Jed died, I was like, oh, this is at the point in the book where they have to have the flare.
Yeah,
There's
extremely.
no way.
Okay, and I have another question, because it's like, it's explained that like Jed's group, Jedediah, I'm calling him Jed affectionately because he's our best friend now.
Yeah. I mean, he did save Mark and Alec from getting beat up.
That's true.
So,
but Jed explains
did.
that like their little people group split into a second people group. But also we find out that from like Mark and Alec and Trina and Lana's original village, nobody like escaped, because Lana and Trina were there the whole time. They weren't like, hey, a group of us went that way. So like, how did their village get this many people to like not die and leave versus their village, everyone just died?
Maybe in the 2 months from the first village attack to this village attack, they upped their game. They're like, you know what, y'all?
Dart.
We have too many survivors from our dart brigades. When we go to Asheville, I don't want a single survivor.
That's a good.
Honestly,
that's a good.
That would make a lot of sense.
Like, what's north of Asheville? Like, Charleston, when we attack Charleston.
When we attack Charleston.
Or Charlottesville.
You better believe I'm on No Survivors.
Yeah, things go from bad to worse because the second group just shows up out of nowhere, and then the two groups end up just fighting, which leads Mark and Alec to be able to escape.
Second group, not as good. So there is a bonfire in the middle of the singing, dancing, the touring ABBA
Dance
group,
in the moonlight.
as you will. Can't fight the moonlight. And Mark and Alec pick up these logs that are on fire to use as a weapon. And, hey, sun flares have ravaged the town, the whole village. And like Nate said, Asheville has a lot of trees. It starts a fucking forest fire.
Yeah. Forest fire was not on my bingo card for plot points to happen in this book.
No, they somehow run the length of the Inferno and they
wind up back exactly to where they left everybody. Which... No, you know how big the woods are, y'all?
They're huge!
They're huge! And you're telling me in a forest fire, it conveniently arranged itself in a way that you could go, well, this is where our camp was.
I do kind of love that they made Alec a military man because it can just, like, answer every question. He's like, I just know the way of things.
I know how to read the stars, so we go this direction.
He's like, I hand wrote this map after the work pad, so I know exactly where to go. And I'm like, okay.
I guess it doesn't really matter in the end, because when they go to their campsite, Lana, Trina, and Dee Dee are not there.
But there's signs of struggle. They're gone, and Alec knows how to read tracks on the ground.
Signs of struggle. The bushes were all fucked up. That's what that was the tell. They're like, look at those bushes. The berries are gone. The lady's dead. We don't know.
They do see trail of blood, though. That would set me off. I'd be like... I don't know. I feel like after I've just survived death, not only in my town, and the little ship crash, and the two groups that were just after me, maybe I'd go, sucks that they got taken. I'm gonna leave.
Also, wouldn't you be a little bit more careful? Because it's like Mark finds the footsteps and follows them to where they got taken, which is telling me you weren't careful about your footsteps.
No.
You just heard people singing in the mountains and saw a fire. Are you not afraid?
The best thing about this footsteps plotline is Alex like, this is the exact direction we're going based off the work pad.
So they get to the place where the Berg returned after the trip. And this is where they find that the group was taken. A boom goes off and the ground begins to rise and they realize it's a landing spot for the Berg.
Yeah, there's a little like underground garage essentially.
Don't know how this one was painted. I don't know how a lot of the action scenes were painted, but they somehow like narrowly jump into the hole and they land on a stairwell, which is great. I guess they don't fall into the abyss.
And they conveniently hear two Berg captains casually getting off their ship and being like, man, sucks that virus is mutating, huh?
Our headquarters in Alaska is being shut down and overrun. I love when it's like movies like that where they overhear the correct thing.
Yeah.
It's like a poorly done improv scene where they're just saying way too much detail.
I would also just love instead if somebody was like just saying the most mundane thing of being like, man, I'm just tired. I didn't get enough sleep last night. My stomach's really fucked up from all the Berg food we've been eating.
This is when
they're like, this information is useless.
We learn the name of the disease. It's called the flare. The chapter ends on what is supposed to be a gasp moment.
It wasn't. Okay, gasp scores are on the table, 0 to 100. How much did you gasp at that?
2.
I was like, obviously?
Yeah. It was a 2. I was like, okay, well.
They are making their way down this hallway of darkness, and most of the rooms have, like, open doors, and they just see the back of this guy, like, sitting on a cot, and Alec is like, let me go talk to him.
Was this part of the book supposed to be, like, when you run into the Oracle and the hero's journey?
I don't know. Like this scene made no fucking sense.
Like, this guy was like a drunk uncle that really hated his job.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was sick, and his name was Anton, and he works with the Post-Flare Coalition, and says he felt bad that so many were dead minus one girl, and he was upset they gave the girl back to the people.
Yeah, so he basically has just guilt over being a government worker and being corrupt, but he's decided to reside on his little cot in his little room and die in peace.
When his cult-like co-workers, the other cult that we're running into, are just downstairs having a good old Joel Osteen rally, waiting to go.
He does say something very interesting about the flare, which was just that it was manufactured by the government you hemorrhage in the brain, and they upped the dose to wipe out half the population because they're using up resources, which is fucking awful.
Yeah, and he also does give us the convenient thing that, like, the exact city of Asheville, since I know we're in, like, the surrounding area of Asheville, is the last safe haven in the East, so thank God we learned that from him. Thank God his mind's going slowly crazy, but he can remember all this factual information for us.
Yeah, and before we get to the TED Talk that Nate was hinting at, we gotta have one more dream sequence.
Yeah, because Alex like, hey buddy, we gotta sleep with this sick man.
It's like Alec and Mark being like, oh,
and they're like, hey, move over on your cot, buddy.
They literally all like sleep in this room with cots. And this is tsunami time. Water is rushing down the stairs.
Tsunami Time's my favorite James Cameron movie.
Tsunami Time.
The prequel to Way of the Water.
Yeah.
Tsunami Time.
Exactly. That's my favorite Avatar. And Misty falls into the water, and they say the water's too hot.
Yeah, it's scalding. And they almost lose Baxter in this riff, but we don't know who the fuck Baxter is. But it's supposed to be, like, really important that they save Baxter, but we also just learned who Baxter was, I think if not in this flashback, in the flashback that happened 10 pages ago.
It's almost as if he's trying to, like, create some, like, emotional ties to these characters that, like, die like Misty by implementing these flashbacks.
Yeah.
But in the flashbacks, it's just like, oh yeah, and Misty, you remember her? She's there. She's dead now, but she was there.
Yeah.
I knew her a year ago.
We don't get any of his personality besides Mark being like, dang, wish he had stuck around. He was a really cool guy, like, sometimes.
Yeah, Baxter was smaller than the rest of them. He didn't stand a chance. But they saved Baxter, everybody.
They saved Baxter.
But we also know Baxter wasn't with them in the beginning of the book, so what happened to him?
What happens? This is, I guess, is an important dream because Mark saves Alec here, so sometimes I guess he can be useful.
Yeah, and then this flashback decides to speed itself up and just say they made it to the Lincoln Building and stayed there for 2 weeks.
So Mark wakes
because
up.
of the iPad that he still has to this day.
Yeah. Mark wakes up after, I think he only took like a 2-hour nap. I think I would need a longer nap after all of my walking.
Yeah.
And they are exploring this headquarters place, and they find an auditorium of like 50 people just watching a guy on stage.
Yeah.
Damn, wish we could all fill out an auditorium like that.
Okay, this group is a little self-aware though, because the guy at the front is like, hey y'all, we're all losing our minds.
Bruce.
Oh yeah, his name is Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yes, the guy is rallying the group, and pretty interesting thing, he said that they were sent there to take part in the worst civil rights fiasco since the War of 2020, and this book was written in 2012.
Wow.
I thought that was very... Stop, Coney. And he says they gave all of the girls to the cult in his speech because it buys them time. So that means Trina, Lana, Dee Dee, they're not here.
Gonzo. But they're also going to get a cure somehow. That's like their mission.
They're going to make it to Alaska.
But Mark and Alec get spotted. They're trying to hide underneath the little folding chairs.
Yeah, I didn't know how he saw them because Bruce was like, we're going to get to Alaska, but first get the spies at the back of the auditorium.
Which literally just happened with the other like group of dancing people in the woods. They were like, hey, get those spies!
It was almost as if he was speaking from a teleprompter, and they typed in the teleprompter, like, oh, by the way, there are 2 people here hiding right there. They're traitors.
Yeah. They are not good at hiding. It reminds me of the scene in the Pink Panther with Steve Martin where they have the bodysuits on and both sides are different colors of the wall and they're just spinning. I'm sorry, I just watched Pink Panther.
I haven't seen that movie.
You mentioned it last night when we were doing game night too, so I love how you brought this up twice in a weekend.
It's such a great movie. Anyways, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Hey, Meggie, it matters.
Yeah.
Okay.
But chaos ensues, such as the theme of this book.
Naturally.
They get chased out of the auditorium and up the stairwell, but wait a minute. They're not following us up the stairwell. And then this turns into a weird sneak attack. I didn't really know the logistics of how they stopped at the stairwell and then they were suddenly in the room that they went into.
It's like they go up the stairwell, the screaming stops behind them, and they're like, oh, perfect. And then they run down the hallway. They go to where the Berg is, in the Berg pilot circular thing. And there's 2 pilots that they have to fight to get on there. Why
weren't the pilots in the auditorium with everybody else?
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I have so many questions for this book.
It is pretty crazy because this is when Mark realizes he has the flare. I thought this was pretty brutal. So the male pilot gets on the Berg as they're escaping, and also there's like all of the people who are going crazy kind of on the ground too. And he gets in a tussle and gets the upper hand and has him like halfway out the ramp as it is like closing and just crushes his chest in. And Mike's like, I'm really enjoying this. Yeah. This is a good time.
Yeah, and then Mark is also like, oh no, I am not well. Yeah, it's like
he loves killing that pilot a little too much.
You know, when just like you have a lot of like shots, and you're like, I am invincible, I am never gonna die, and then like you kind of have that backwards monologue of like, I am the drunkest I've ever been right now. That's kind of what I feel like Mark's logic is right now.
It is so funny. It's kind of insane that you can sober up in that moment to be like, I've been drinking a lot, but then I get like such great focus on being like, I must take 3 shots right now.
Yeah,
I could probably do math in that time.
Yeah,
and then I get more drunk.
Exactly.
That's Mark.
It's called ebb and flow.
Oh. Exactly. So he's like, I'm gonna let Alec know eventually that I think that I have the flare, but not right now.
Because someone's hijacking this ship!
Yep. He sees a guy who's been holding onto the berg. He kind of breaks the window and starts climbing in. And
Which, like, how did he climb the berg with a hammer? Because it said, like, the guy breaks the window with a hammer.
I don't know. He breaks
like,
the
window. Did he put it in like his mouth or something?
No idea. This is an action sequence
I have a lot of questions.
That takes place twice. This guy...
So if you guys loved it the first time, you're gonna get a do-over.
So he's like half in, half out this window, grabbing Mark, trying to get him off the ship, and then I don't know. I assume Mark was halfway out the window holding him, and then Alec helps push the guy off, but it doesn't matter because they're flying, baby.
Yeah, so the guy just plummets to the ground, man. They land the ship in just like a neighborhood, and they're like, well, we should eat, talk, and then like probably sleep again so you can have one of those flashbacks that explains how we got here, huh?
And Mark's like, yeah, I just killed a pilot, and I kind of loved it a lot, so I think sleep is the next best thing to do.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that that's the time to reflect.
Hey, fellas, you know when you just kill someone, you gotta sleep it off?
Honestly, yes.
So this little flashback memory is just life in the Lincoln building. We find out that they're not staying near the windows because of the solar flares.
Get rid of the 6 gays of WeHo to life in the Lincoln building.
And they've been living off of like vending machine food for God knows how long.
Yeah, Mark's been sleeping under a conference table, which I thought like was just fitting for him.
Yeah.
And they are in New York, as you do in the Big Apple, and they see this boat driving down Broadway.
Because the streets are water now.
Tsunami time.
Tsunami time. Yeah. It was tsunami time. And the
tsunami time too. The streets are water.
The boat sees them and pulls in near, like, the 5th story floor is the bottom of where you can now go outside. And this guy's just like, hello, group of people, I got a gun, and shoots Baxter 3 times. I'm not kidding, that's like literally what happens.
And it comes out of nowhere. Like, it was supposed to be like, oh, jaw on the floor, this guy's bad news, but it was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I truly loved this scene because he just shot Baxter 3 times in the chest and no one really reacts. There's like one sentence from Mark like, dang, Baxter's kind of cool guy. And then they keep going on their day.
Well, he says there, he's like, that's what did it for me. That's when I knew life was, like, he had some like sort of comment about it where like,
oh, this is when I knew life was never going to be the same. It's like, really? This was it?
Your baby sister is dead.
You're sleeping under a conference table.
Oh my god.
It's
like, I like to imagine it's like they take shifts with their hands in the vending machine instead of just breaking the glass, and they're just trying to fish it out of the bottom.
I also love how like the guy that shoots Baxter is like trying to like be all, what's the word, like dominant or whatever, like trying to like show how big he is, and then like he has his little accomplice lady where anytime she like agrees with him, he's like, shut up, bitch. And like, and she's like, oh yeah, totally, sorry.
She
like,
just refers to him as boss, and I just kept referring to her as boss's lady, because neither of them got named.
She's boss baby. So the people from the ship go, they rummage their place for things for the boat, and as they're doing that, Alec kind of charges the guy and pushes him out of like a 12-story building.
Yeah, so he lands in the tsunami water.
Alec goes too, and then Mark grabs him again. They all get on the boat, and, you know.
And as they're sailing away down Broadway Street, Mark watches through the window as boss's lady just kills herself, which I think was supposed to be another, like, jaw-dropping moment. But it was confusing.
Yeah, when really, like, James is just Daddy Dashner.
Daddy Dashner, as you will.
Daddy Dashner, formerly Mr. Dashner.
Yeah, it's more like, wow, this woman's man is no longer around, so this woman, she's got to go.
She has nothing to live for.
She's nothing to live for.
Dude, I hate when boss is gone and dead.
Yeah.
I also...
When boss daddy go bye-bye, I go bye-bye.
Boss daddy go bye-bye.
Dan, she said, I'm going down with the ship.
Even more bad news bears, Mark is awake again.
Oh god, I hate it when he's awake.
But don't worry, because Alec knows exactly where the group of people they're looking for is, and they're conveniently a good walk away.
Because military.
Yeah, because military. He figured it out.
They flew over this bonfire site, and he thinks that the people near the bonfire have Trina, Lena, I put Serena, whatever. I was forgetting Dee Dee's name.
Lana. I feel like Lana really just did not get the character development that they tried to give Trina.
No. But Alec is like, before we do that, let's check the ship for any weapons. And they find the coolest fucking weapon, which is called a transvice. He really likes just putting trans in everything.
He's an ally.
He's an ally. We got flat trans. We got transvice. We get it. You love us.
But you have to charge them, which I find hilarious.
I know. And it just turns people to dust.
Yeah, it evaporates them.
Yeah.
Just pulls apart like all of the molecules in their body.
Yeah.
And they're like, let's try this. Let's get out there.
Yeah, I was like, hey,
toy.
We had time in this book for Alex to be like, great, I'll just take a couple pages to show you how this works.
Mark's like, I've tasted blood. I want to be the next virus in this world. Like I will kill every motherfucker in North Carolina.
He really does.
With the last chapter being Mark watching someone commit suicide, and now we're spending time just Alec being like the dad he never had, being like, let me show you how to shoot a gun, kid.
Yeah, you know how people in movies will go and they just kind of shoot the tin things? That's a little bit what Alec is doing, except they're going into the suburbs and a crazy man is running at them and Alec just vaporizes him.
Yep.
That's their Stand With Me moment. Stand By Me? Is that the movie?
Stand By Me? Yeah.
Stand By Me.
So they're like going through this village of crazy people.
Yeah.
That's what they call people.
Crazy. Say, this scene is too long. Because it was.
Oh my gosh, is this... Okay, so they're sleuthing through houses. There's like...
It's like killing people. Well...
Yeah, they are. They like find a house with like a woman who's going crazy and there's a bunch of dirty children in it.
Yeah.
And then they find another house with like a man in a basement holding a match and he's covered in gasoline.
Dude, it was graphic too. They're like, the children smelled like shit because they all were covered in it or something like that. It was bad.
Yeah, it is. There's everything has gone to hell. They see some guy like chewing a cat. There's 30 people just laying on top of each other, which honestly, that doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, it's orgy.
Yeah.
That sounds... Oh, I was thinking of like you know when you're sad and you just need
like a
touch.
cuddle puddle?
Yeah, like a cuddle puddle.
A siesta.
It's like...
Sorry, I took that
siesta.
to the inappropriate version, guys. I
did.
apologize.
Hey, you know what? It's a future dystopian. There's going to be an orgy somewhere, you know?
You're right.
And they're just checking for their friends when they see these 3 men dragging a bloodied and bruised and missing some hair Lana.
Oof.
Yeah, they describe it
Tough
really
stuff.
graphic that like her hair's been like ripped out and there's like patches of red blood all over her scalp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. And neither Mark nor Alec can like take a shot at a guy around her because they don't have a clear shot. And then one guy gets a knife out and stabs her.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
That was graphic.
Yeah, more keep coming for Lana, and they shoot and vaporize the guys. And
all
eventually,
of them.
yeah.
Conveniently.
They vaporize Lana to put her out of her suffering, which I think I would too.
I mean,
like she's gonna die.
I mean, I feel like if they should have just done that sooner, it was obvious from the get-go she wasn't gonna get out of it, so why take the time to be like, we can't get a clear shot? Like...
Just get a Control-Alt-Delete, man. Like, get them all in one.
Yeah. Do a swipe. Swipe remove.
Swipe remove.
What, like, bothered me about this part of the book was, like, nothing Lana did, like, gave to the story. And so, like, her death, like, just felt so...
Brutal.
Like, brutal and, like... a waste. Like, at least, like, when you have big characters, at least have them die for something.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel like Lana was just this example of, like, a useless death. Like, Baxter. But at least Baxter, we got a little giggle out of it.
Yeah, my one critique about this death is like Nate's. It wasn't funny enough.
It wasn't funny enough.
So
they have the word kill in the title.
Yeah.
Exactly. I guess this is the kill order they were talking about. So they figured next move is to go into this house that Lana just got dragged out of.
But first, I just want to comment on something that I found noteworthy about this little village.
Yes,
well, I guess the Maze Runner lore as a whole, which I just discovered in this book, is Crank. when they talked about how everyone was on crank. And now, I'm not super familiar with, like, the trilogy books. I only read the first 2. Is crank mentioned a lot in the original 3?
No, only in the not in the first book at all. Cranks don't exist because they're in the maze the whole time.
2 and 3.
2 and 3 it's mentioned.
Well, because they're like, crank's a drug and you're all crankers. Like, that's something they called, like, meth addicts. And I just thought that was, like, so weird. Yeah. That's all. I just thought I wanted to mention that.
It is crazy.
Maybe the flare is just meth.
Wow. Now that's pretty metaphorical. Like,
it could be. I mean, drugs did ravage communities.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And
crazy. But we don't have time for it. We don't have
time. We gotta get to the next place.
We gotta find it. We gotta find
Because Dee Dee has no redeeming qualities besides being a 5-year-old girl, apparently.
Yeah. Honestly, sympathy points for Dee Dee because her parents gave her that name.
Oh, yeah.
So they go in.
And her R.I.P. Mr. and Mrs. Dee Dee.
Wow. Mr. and Mrs. Dee Dee. So they go in the first of her name. So they go into the basement, and little girl Dee Dee says Trina is sick, and Trina looks at Mark and goes, "Who are you?" And he's like, "God, this is like high school all over again."
And then they have to try to leave this house, but like, the way this scene reads is there's like 500 people in this house. Like, it is confusing because there's too many people in the basement and on the stairwell and then in the dining room and the living room. And they're trying to zap people as best as they can. But there's too many, so they're like forced back downstairs. Trina gets them to like stop for a second.
It is so weird.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
She yells out that Mark and Alec are just trying to save them and to make a path. And they all do. Which, why are they listening to her?
I don't know. I think it's kind of like in book 3 when they're doing the van sequence and then the cranks all stop to let them like move out of the way and then they attack anyway.
Oh,
I think James Dashner is trying to get that kind of same vibe here, but it just doesn't work in this scenario.
It is kind of interesting because like Nude had a bit of solidarity with the cranks in the second or third one. Oh, third, because he goes crazy in that one. When they come to get him, and they're like, well, he's a part of our community now. So maybe just cranks are really loyal.
Yeah.
Who knows? So they're walking upstairs. Everyone is in a line.
Mark's gun gets taken from him as they're going upstairs.
Yeah.
They do.
Somehow manages to lose a gun that you have to plug into the wall and charge.
Yeah.
Like, I find that nuts. And then, like, the crazy crank starts using it.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like maybe I just read the book wrong, but I feel like he noticed that he lost it when he saw someone else using the gun.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened.
Yes.
Why is Mark around?
I don't know.
Mark does not take initiative on anything. It's like, Alex always like, Mark, you do this. And Mark's like, okay. Like,
I'm gonna nap.
Yeah.
He sees that they start taking Trina and Dee Dee upstairs, so he tries to go save them. And at this point, like they said, the crank figures out how to use the transvice, and they're like escaping through this window. I really liked this scene as this rogue guy just like steps out onto the doorstep and he's just fucking vaporizing everyone. Like, honestly, opposite a canceled character. I want to give a shout out to him because I fucking loved that.
That will be our justice for character for the entire series that we do.
That man was a hero. That was so funny. That was just chaotic evil. That was so funny.
Yeah, it's described laughably that it's like, yeah, this guy just going crazy, just zapping people into thin air.
Straight in the chest, turning mist.
Yeah.
He's vaporizing people, and Mark is like, this seems like a really good time to ask Trina if she truly has no clue who I am. And this guy's just like, just killing people on the front lawn.
But they make their way back to the Berg, thank goodness.
Oh, yeah.
They have food and they're eating there. Mark ends up finding the work pad, which has a file conveniently named Kill Order, which explains why they're unleashing this virus. It's basically just what Anton had told them a minute ago, so it's like, oh, this isn't really news. This was already said to us 100 pages ago.
It's just there's too many people, not enough resources.
Yeah.
And they said, like, at first people were upset about this idea. They're like, how could we ever do this? The group of scientists, and they're like, well, I guess we just gotta do it. You know?
But then Mark's like, boy, am I traumatized by reading all this stuff I already knew. I'm gonna take a nap.
And guess what? This is a good dream because this is about Thunder and Trina getting close to him in the mountains.
Yeah, they're like in a little cave and it's raining.
They're snuggling, talking about settlements, how she's glad she got out with
That
him.
longest road in Settlers of Catan.
You know, pretty sexy stuff, just pillow talk.
But when they wake up, it's not looking good, y'all, because Alec is sick and he's deteriorating fast.
Which sucks. He's like, I can't die for nothing. we are taking the little girl to Asheville, and I need to teach you how to drive this helicopter. Alec tells him to check on the girls, and he does, and Mark goes and sees Dee Dee and Trina, and they're terrified.
Yeah.
And they say the boogeyman is up there with his friends.
Yeah, they're squatters. There's squatters on the ship.
And guess what? One of the squatters gets the transvice when Mark comes back with it.
Yeah, Mike has to fight him through the window of the ship that's open. So we get that scene just literally word for word again. Mike ends up doing it without Alec's help this time, killing this guy. And he just basically hides from the other dude with the transvice pretty much for a little bit.
Is this when he threw the guy out the window?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, he loves to throw people out windows.
But now, okay, it's page 320. We make it to Asheville.
Oh, yes.
We make it to Asheville, and boy, do we have to wrap this book up because none of this, what's about to happen, makes any sense.
No, they see one of the post-Flare Coalition buildings, and they start...
Quit immediately.
They start going towards it. They've already landed. They land outside the entrance. Alex drops him off.
And Alex like, you know what you gotta do. Mark's like, yep. And Mark's like, man, never gonna see that guy again. And it's like, wait, what did you guys agree on?
I don't know. Alec just drops him off. Like, I thought he was gonna learn how to fly the plane, but no, Alec is like, get out, and then he takes off.
Yeah, and then like the flat trans is there.
Yeah.
But was it like there an understanding that like Alec knew that he was gonna have to crash?
I don't know.
Like that's what he meant by like, oh, I'll never see you again because like we're all gonna die.
I think that's what it was supposed to be, but it wasn't explained.
Yeah.
It wasn't. But Trina and Mark are having a little send-off with Dee Dee. They're like, we need you to be brave. We need you to go through the flat trans. And Mark gives Dee Dee a piece of paper that says she's immune. Use her before the crazy people find you.
Yeah, and so she goes through the flat trans.
He actually just wrote down LOL OMG not sick.
Yeah.
Gives it to her, goes through the portal.
He wrote, whose child is this? And just shoved it through. But Trina and Mark kiss, and then like Trina pulls away and is like, Mark, I remember you.
And that's where that one ends. And then we get the epilogue.
Well, no, because then Alec crashes Berg into the building and everything explodes.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
so
as it's happening.
Yeah, and that ruins the little safe haven in Asheville.
The last word in this book is Mark.
Aww.
Pretty sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we get an epilogue that makes no sense, too, so...
Yep, it's a woman and her son, and people come in like, we appreciate you willing to make a sacrifice. And she tells the little kid to go on and be brave. And the people in the suit look at the light bulb and they go, we will name him Thomas.
Yeah.
Right in front of the woman that named him, right?
Yeah.
The disrespect.
That, that epilogue? Yeah, that epilogue, like, that to me gave me, like, the most emotional reaction throughout the entire book. Because it was like a mother saying goodbye to her child.
We technically also did really see that scene in the first book a little bit, because it's like it's this exact scene of her being like signing over papers. It's like he gets this when he gets stung by the creeper and is starting to get his memories back. He has a memory of his mom giving him away and remembers that like his dad went crazy. So I thought it was weird to put it here because it's like we technically already kind of knew this. Yeah, but we got like a little more like color to it now.
Mm-hmm.
I know the epilogues and prologues for this seemed so disjointed.
A lot of things in this book seemed disjointed, I'll say.
I felt like it had a framework for a really good prequel.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a ragtag group of people who, like, love each other, that have been together since the end of the world event happened, and then, like, one by one they die to, like, help this little girl who clearly can... like, save the world somehow, potentially. Like, that's a pretty cool idea, but just the delivery of it all was just so, like...
You want to know what I think would have been better?
Let's hear it.
I think it should have... all the flashbacks should have been the main story, and I think they should have become a part of the post-Flare Coalition and been the ones that started the virus and are living with that. I feel like that should have been
that would have been kind of cool.
The, like, kind of like, okay, yeah, these are survivors. They're going to try and help, like, you know... this world, maybe they're volunteering, and then they get appointed by the government to accidentally spread this virus, and now they have to live with the guilt like Anton was living with.
It really did seem like it was two stories. Like, James Dashner wanted, okay, I want the story of when the flare completely ruined the earth, and then I also want the one of how the virus started.
Yeah.
And I wanted one or the other.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because it's like the solar flares were so much more interesting than this. So it's like... I would have loved people just running through tunnels.
Yeah.
Like that framework works because we listened to people run through mazes for the entire book and we thought that was great. Take the Maces underground. That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyways, that is the technically 4th book in the series.
Yeah,
but it's
book,
the prequel.
First prequel.
The Kill Order.
And I guess that brings us to our top 5.
It does. And our top 5 for this book is the one that we all could not stop talking about. It is top 5 better titles for this book.
And Nate, I think you have to come in hot with number 5.
All right. The number 5, the not Bechdel test.
Name one time it passes it.
Right?
You can't.
Oh my God, the one line of Mark being like, she got a hot body and dazzling eyes. I was like, yeah.
I was texting Laura about this before coming over. Like, James Dashner does not thrive in creating complex female characters. No,
they're all
like,
the same
am I
when you think
wrong?
about it.
Like,
they really are all the same.
Yeah.
And like, have you seen the movies yet?
No,
you haven't.
Have you seen the movies?
I have. Yeah. Well,
okay.
I've only seen the first 2, and in the first movie, can I talk a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. In the first movie, Teresa is like, she's actually in like all of the movie.
I mean, she pops up really quickly in the first book.
Yeah, but she's like passed out for like half of it. Like, she's kind of like asleep for a good portion of it.
Right.
She is not in a coma in the movie at all. And I wonder if like the producers were like, we should maybe like change this up.
Have a character in this, yeah.
And then like, I'm blanking on names, so like Brenda, like, who only communicates via like posthumous emails apparently, or something like where she's like, oh, everything that she says is like through email, right, in the books.
Oh, that's Ava Page.
Ava Page. Sorry, Ava Page. They actually just make her a real character in the movie. Like, she's like walking around human in the movies too. It was almost as if they were like, we need to actually like give more like women roles in these movies, because like the book adaptations. So that's what I think is the not Bechdel test.
Yeah,
I think that's
and that runs deep in this series
for sure.
I will say before we go on to the next one, it's so interesting because we read such like books that are so like female dominated, and we get like maybe one like male character. So now we're in a world where it's just a sea of male characters, and finding like it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Number 4, we think this book should be called The Fever Code, because literally everybody's getting the illness. Meggie and I have started the next prequel. It doesn't make sense that is called The Fever Code. I don't get it. We're
gotten
confused.
it mixed up so many times.
Yeah.
Texting.
I've called this book The Death Cure. I've called the other one The Kill Order. Books 3, 4, 5 just don't make sense title-wise.
No.
This one especially, though.
For number 3, we were thinking, since it is essentially the same plot, to name it Flare 1.
Yeah, like Rogue One.
Like Rogue One.
A Star Wars story. Why
exactly.
not?
Hey, and that one had a female character.
Damn, you're so right.
It's pretty crazy. Think of the things you can do when you open up your mind.
Damn.
You know?
Nate, you should bring us in with number 2.
Number 2, Coney 2012, The Kill Order.
Yeah.
Because this book came out in 2012.
And that makes more sense than anything that happened in this book.
Hey, do you think that The Kill Order coming out in 2012 is the reason we couldn't stop him?
Damn.
Macy, you can do so much when you open your mind.
People say a lot of things about this podcast, but I think we can all agree that this podcast makes you think.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I don't think it's a coincidence that The Kill Order and Macklemore Ryan Lewis album The Heist came out in the same year.
Wow.
I'm just saying. There's something there.
I want to pop some tags. A prophet once
wrote.
Anton.
What the director didn't want you to know was Mark did have $20 in his pocket the entire time.
Oh, this is fucking awesome.
Okay, that's the last line of the book.
We're done quoting the thrift store song. And number 1, better titles, we think it should just be called Save the Girl, comma, The Princess D.D. Diary.
And honestly, it would make sense because they really give a shit about D.D.
We're reaching 2 crowds with this. We're reaching Save the Girl, which could be heroes, and is basically the whole thing. And then we have the Princess D.D. Diaries.
The issue with this whole Save the Girl plotline is it's not introduced till like midway through the book.
But
once it's introduced, it's the whole plot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just would, like, okay.
This book's all over the fucking place.
If
Jesus.
If Dee Dee, like, if we knew Dee Dee from the start of the book, and we knew that she couldn't get sick for some reason, like, they discovered it, like, during the attack, and then she was kidnapped that would make the chase make way more sense.
It would make way more sense if it was like like Dee Dee's like older brother trying to find her because it's his sister that like got abducted by Wicked or something.
Or Mark misses his sister and he sees his sister in Dee Dee and feels like in The Last of Us. That's basically the premise.
They never really made that comparison.
Yeah.
This book could never be The Last of Us. Could never.
No.
Because it quite literally isn't.
So we're not going to read the third prequel, I guess?
I don't think we are. I don't think we need to. I think we devoted a lot of time to the Maze Runner.
You have.
And I think we can rest in peace knowing that this series doesn't need a third prequel.
But it is pretty interesting. We got James Dashner and we got Suzanne Collins trying to revive books of our youth.
I mean, like James Dashner, he did it 2 prequels and then he's doing another one.
I think this one's a sequel, The Maze Cutter.
Yeah, but still, it's a lot to be like, let me just go back, you know? Sometimes we just gotta let things be.
Sometimes we do.
But guys, I think we have to talk canceled character.
Oh, that's right.
I know, I think so. And as always, I did not write one down. I don't know.
Yeah, so I didn't write one down either. So let's really think. You know what?
My favorite character is the crank with the
we know the crowned character of the week is going to be the crank with the gun.
So for listeners that may be new and also for myself, can you tell me a little bit more about the canceled character?
It is
like
the
just
character
the
you
one we're
just
fucking
dislike
canceling.
the most.
Oh, dislike.
So I'm gonna cancel Mark.
I was gonna cancel Mark too.
Great, Nate,
yeah, I would love to cancel Mark.
Great. So the reasons I think we were all going to cancel Mark is because he objectifies Trina. He has no real interest in her. He does not take any action. It doesn't really seem like he cares enough about anything that's going on. He just kind of is like going along to seem like he's tough.
Yeah.
And he seems like he would drive a Nissan Cube.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he strikes me as someone that like wouldn't honor Alex's pronouns.
And I don't think I don't think he knows where the clit is.
No. He treats women like objects.
Yeah.
Well, Trina forgot about him, so, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he also crushed a guy in a fucking closing door.
Pretty nuts.
I think that was the most horrible death in this book.
That was so bad.
It was pretty bad.
Out of a plane, right?
Was it before he was trying to get up on the plane. The window person was different.
Okay.
Yeah, Mark, I think, killed the most people.
I think so.
Yeah, because Alec, he killed some, but, Mark did most of the bidding.
Oh, at the end when he went through the Crank Village or whatever. The crazy Crank Village, he was just going hard.
Whoville.
It was the Purge. He was Purge at Whoville.
Yeah, honestly, the choice to have them just go through a fucking suburban neighborhood vaporizing a bunch of people was weird.
It was a choice.
It was a choice.
I also would love I would also like to say I love how James Dashner, when he talks about emotional impact, whatever, to the main characters, he's like, I'm gonna do the worst thing that could ever happen to a guy, to a character, and that is have a girl forget about him.
Knife in the heart.
Not the first book he's done that in either. Yeah. I just love that.
God, it is true. That is a running theme.
James Dashner really does love to be like, I'm gonna keep you on your edge of your seat your entire time, and I was like, you if you set the bar too high, anything else you do after that is just kind of gonna fall flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The moment a bird came in and started just murderously killing innocent people, it was you can't really do anything to outshock that. That was a pretty big plot point.
You can't. And I guess that kind of brings us to the end of the kill order. I had to look at the book because I was going to say Fever Code.
And hey, I would have done it too.
Next week is Fever Code.
Yes.
And it is the 5th and final prequel of the Maze Runner series because I do believe The Maze Cutter is a sequel.
And if it's not, we were wrong.
Yeah. I guess. You know what? I'm going to be confident and wrong in 2023.
Nate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you had a good time.
I had a blast. It was great to read this book just to really remind myself that there are other good books out there.
Yay!
Or that there are good books out there, and this isn't one of them.
Yes.
This
honestly
is a good
puts
reminder.
Things into perspective.
Yeah. No, it's so much fun.
So, if you want to follow Nate...
Yeah!
Oh my gosh, yeah. Follow me on Instagram. I'm Nate Todd _. On Twitter, I'm Nate Todd. And
wow, no underscore.
Super hot. No underscore there.
I'm not going to give you my email. I know you all like to give your email.
We're going to piggyback off that and give you our email right fucking now.
Yes. It is Meggie and Laura present@gmail.com.
Send us a fucking email. We love it. It makes our day every single time.
We do. And on Twitter and TikTok, we are Yeah We Reddit. On Instagram, we are Meggie_and_Laura. We love them underscores.
We love the underscores.
My dad follows that. My dad follows both of you and the Meggie and Laura, probably.
Sounds like everybody's
pressure's on.
Taking a page out of Nate Todd's dad's book.
Alex not the only daddy who we like.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Nate. And we'll see you all next week for the Fever Code.
Ooh la la.
I said it right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
How long was